And we welcome back once again this hockey season to the Insider Hotline.
Look how young he looks.
God, he looks good. He's refreshed. Great summer. Got some.
So I feel like this is going to be big. You know, you've got the Pinder postseason party. I mean, this is going to be the new craze. I mean, it was Tinder, it was Grindr, and now it's Pinder. I
That's
mean,
right.
It's all very different. Depending what you're looking for, check all those boxes, Dreger. You seem familiar with all three. I'm happy you're.
I'm not really. No, I'm too old for that nonsense.
Yeah. And his wife's out of town.
Hey!
Okay. All right.
We're going to try to hit for the cycle on Saturday. I got a fantasy hockey draft after too, Dreger. Going to be good.
Okay. Well, you'll be set. Good for you. I hope it works out.
Well, you're back in your home studio. Summer is over. Are you sad to see summer end? Did you have a good one, or are you ready to get back into it?
Yeah, I'm more or less ready. I think like you guys, and I mean, Rhett knows the preseason training camp, all of that it's just endless, right? And especially for the veteran players, I think by this stage, everybody's basically had enough. There's only so many ways we in the media can twist the fodder of what this team is going to look like. Is this team going to take a step back? Are they ready? All of that. So in that respect, I'm good to go. I'm ready to go. I had a great summer. 2 months, boys. 2 months.
Wow.
I got to the Cabbage in Manitoba on the 8th of July and left the 8th of September. So it doesn't get any better than that. But I got breaking news related to Lake of the Prairies.
Right.
My next door neighbor sent me a text today and he goes, "Are you okay with the conservation officers putting a bear trap right beside your garage?" I'm like, why not? Why wouldn't I be? Yeah, I mean,
Your conservation.
yeah.
Well, you know what? For a lot of years, we would have Stephen Brunt on the
Yeah,
radio
Brunt's
show,
bear.
and he had a place in Newfoundland that he had to have. We would talk about the
Yeah.
bear. The bear got his own Twitter account. We didn't. It was Brunt's bear showed up on social media, was tweeting and everything.
Chime
So
in, yeah.
keep your
Yeah.
eyes peeled there.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean,
Yeah.
and, you know, they're picking these things off left, right, and center, but it's all humane, right? You catch them in the trap and then you drive them 300 kilometers away and you relocate and everybody's happy, other than the bear and his family. But
Yeah.
that's a different.
Well, I heard there were a few cougars around that cabin this summer. Is that
Right. Jeez.
Wow.
different report or?
Really? Nah, super cougs, the odd snow leopard. Yeah, there was little of the above.
There was reports of leopard skin too. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Safari at Dreger's.
That's a shot at my nieces, my sister-in-laws, all of the above. Good work, Mona.
Only where applicable is what I would suggest. I don't know if that's fair. So, I mean, we're getting ready for the Calgary Flames season. A year ago, we did not have a lot of high expectations. We figured this is going to be a non-playoff year, and the goal.
Pick high.
We'll see what
rebuild.
Yeah, we'll see what the goalie's all about. Should be excited. He should be a full-timer this year. And then they tied for the final spot in the playoffs. Now they did miss, but no one could have expected what came.
96.
So you'd think we've learned from our mistakes, but we sit here and say, "Oh, I don't think it's going to be a lot this year. I don't expect there's going to be playoffs. The goalie's going to play probably a little
There's
bit
some
more
talk
now."
down at the Dome about 97, not as much in this room.
Oh boy.
Dressing room 97's the target.
Yeah.
One more point. That's all they needed, Dreger.
Yes, yeah, I get it, and I can appreciate the optimism. Look, there's a ton of compete in that room. I mean, that was displayed many times last year. I still have the same questions. You guys probably do as well. You know, we wondered about the offense. Where was that going to come from last year? And then it showed up in a few spots that it needed to come from. Nazem Kadri, Jonathan Huberdeau, go down the list. The goaltending, beyond expectation. So can Wolf do that again? And it's probably a redundant question because doesn't it feel like he's going to have to be able to do that again? Or goaltending in and of itself is going to have to be as good. And that's a tall ask. And then you've got the Rasmus Anderson case that, I mean, that's not going away anytime soon. And I think that Craig Conroy has managed it well to this point. Let's be honest here. If there was a deal that made sense, that was even close to being what you feel you need in return via trade for Rasmus Anderson, Connie would have done that in the offseason. He would have done it, right? And we wouldn't be talking about it. But instead, here we are. And, people are wanting, okay, well, what about the possibility of a contract extension? Can't dismiss it. For me, it's unlikely unless the Calgary Flames overpay in term and in money. And I don't think that they're in the business of doing that. So just if it's a distraction or if it's just pure media content, it's going to be there on Anderson and the Calgary Flames, not just in Calgary, but league-wide until the matter is addressed one way or another.
So if they're looking for a certain price to be met, what is that price? And is there a template for that deal? I always talk about that Lindholm deal because it's looking really nice with Brestevich and Gridden looking especially strong in camp. Like, is it player, prospect, first, pick? Like it turns into being quite a haul for Lindholm, who wasn't good for his 2 months in Vancouver. Yeah.
And you're right. All of the above is applicable. And then if there is a contract extension that comes along with Anderson, I think that would be automatic, wouldn't it? If you're a team that's ponying up all of the resources needed to close that deal with the Calgary Flames. So then you get into that territory of sweetener. And I'm also wondering about, go back again now, to Calgary's interest in K'Andre Miller, then with the New York Rangers, and how close that got. I think it got reasonably close until I think it was Carolina threatened the notion of an offer sheet. And then the Flames just went, okay, yeah, well, I guess we're out of the mix on that. If Calgary had landed K'Andre Miller, we're probably not talking about Rasmus Anderson. Maybe Conroy would have felt like, okay, we're good in that area on defense, so let's maybe acquire some other pieces to help our scoring and all of that. So, I mean, Ryan, you mentioned it. I think a little of the above. Typically, when we talk about players of this magnitude, it's always an NHL player, it's always a prospect, and it's always a draft pick. And the quality of each, I guess, depends on whether or not the extension goes along with it.
I guess frustrating is the word I'll use, because I was listening to the boys, Hazy B and Noodles and the boys there the other day talking about the Leafs, obviously, and about what they could use. They need some depth. And Treliving wants top six this, and you look around the league, could really use some center help. And it's like, it just feels like Nazem Kadri would be such a good fit for so many teams. He's got that dog in him, as they say. He's got to want to win a cup again because he's tasted it once. He's got a no trade, but I can't imagine if there's got to be a lot of scenarios out there that would feel right for him. And all of a sudden, cap's going up. There's fewer years left. It's 4 years. It's $7 million, but it just feels like there's an opportunity there. But it still feels like a long shot. Does it rightly feel like a long shot to you?
It does, and more from Calgary's standpoint than any of the teams that would have interest. And there'd be many teams with interest, not just the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, you look around, the Vancouver Canucks need some help. The Montreal Canadiens are still in the market. Go around the league. I mean, Doug Armstrong joked about it, but he said 27 teams are essentially looking for the same forward. And really, he says it tongue in cheek, but the same applies when you're looking at a top 3 or a top 4 defenseman, especially a right shot defenseman. All teams need that type of player. But then what does Calgary do? I mean, if you're talking closer to the trade deadline, and the season has not gone the way that the Flames are hoping, expecting, okay, then at that point, maybe. But any time prior to that, then it's going to take, at least in my opinion, a tremendous overpay by the team. And now, if we're being specific to Treliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs, they spent a lot of assets in the last couple of years. They really have. At the trade deadline, acquiring help on defense and some of the other areas. Scott Laughton, who it was announced earlier today is out week to week with a lower body injury, which he sustained last night against Detroit. They gave up a decent prospect in Grabenkin and then a conditional first-round draft pick. This guy's playing fourth line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he's a better player than that. And I'm not belittling, what Scott Laughton is capable of. I guess when I'm zeroing in on the Toronto Maple Leafs, Treliving might have to keep his powder dry for a while because his cupboard of assets is running a little thin.
Would it be fair to say the Flames are going to start this season with the goal of 97 points? And then if things don't go like they did last year with the 5-0 start, guys performing better than you would have expected, that they might be ready to sort of, what would be the word, I guess, like flip the switch into maybe a light tanking mode? Like maybe don't play Wolf 3 out of 4, play him 2 out of 4, and we'll have the chat with Coleman, who's got 2 years left and near the end of his career. We have the awkward conversation with Nazem, like, look how old you are, look at your term. Do you want to win? Like, do you see them sort of having that, like, we hope it's good, but if it's not, we got a plan B?
Yeah. And look, they wouldn't be alone in that area, but that has to be their goal, is trying to duplicate what they accomplished last year and then some. And maybe that's a little too lofty given how we look at the roster and the holes that we expect to see. But their focus going into the season is no different than the majority teams in the league. Look, we're all starting at 0.0 on game one. So, yeah, we've got, I'm sure that management group has the same sort of offices that every team in the league has, with whiteboards over here. They've got lists of expiring contracts, both RFAs and UFAs. Then they've got their pro scouting list of the players that would be a good fit and the assets that they might want to spend to give up. All of that stuff is just a day-by-day process. But I think in Calgary, no different than any other team, it starts with hope and optimism. And maybe a little expectation, too, from ownership standpoint of why are we talking about taking a step back? Let's see where we're at least around Christmas, and then you start having to have those difficult conversations.
We're talking with Noodles the other day. He was at that Montreal-Ottawa game in Quebec City, and it got feisty and all of that. And just talking about Montreal, and it's because I remember it was Kent Hughes, I think last year, when he was talking, well, we're just taking our time. We're just being patient. And then Noah Dobson comes in, and now Demidov looks like he's a fit with Line A, and Montembeault might be able just fine in net, that sort of thing. I just wonder, Ottawa looks like one, Montreal looks like one. Teams that might say, we're okay with maybe switching course here. Our time is now. It's time for us to make some hay, because Montreal and Ottawa should seem like it's their time. Yeah,
I'm with you. I mean, Ottawa is better than they were a year ago. The gap between Toronto and Ottawa, if it hasn't closed, it's gotten a lot smaller. The Montreal Canadiens are going to be better. That division, the Atlantic division, is going to be a challenge. And then you look at Florida without Matthew Tkachuk until December. Barkov likely done until April, maybe done for the season. I mean, it depends on who you ask and what you believe. I think Tampa Bay is going to be good this year, so they'll challenge for the top of the division. But, Montreal isn't done yet either. And Montreal, for a myriad of reasons, probably mostly because they're on the uptick now, and players around the game can see that, this is going to be a really good team. They're a good team now, but they're going to be really good in the not too distant future. So you've got an attractive world there. And then you combine the history of the Montreal Canadiens, how great a city it is. The building is fantastic and all that. And the Montreal Canadiens are not a tough sell for the player anymore. So I think Ken Hughes is, he's going to try and do something. He's still looking for that number 2 center. I look at their second line, and it's still Kirby Dach with Patrick Laine and Demidov. Kirby Dach needs something good to happen. When he's playing on that line, he's a defensive center. That's what he is, because he has to look after Laine and he has to look after Demidov. But what if they flipped him to the wing and opened him up, freed him up a little bit? Could he provide some good quality secondary offense? And so I think that Marty St. Louis has some decisions to make. But in the meantime, management is going to continue to have an open line policy. Other general managers know what Kent Hughes is willing to do. And the other thing that isn't talked enough about is how deep the Montreal Canadiens are in that young talent pool. They have done a masterful job of drafting and developing, both on defense and up front. So unlike Toronto, who doesn't want to have to give up any more young pieces, the Montreal Canadiens do have the depth in that area. So if a centerman pops up, Kent Hughes will be in the right spot.
Feels like the story of the offseason is the guys that aren't signed. Obviously, Connor's the big news, but what's unique is that no one's talking about a lot of similarly impactful stars that aren't signed. Like Kaprizov got done, but I'm looking at Eichel, Kyle Connor, Artemi Panarin's in his last year in New York. Marty Necas, after the Rantanen deal was a big ad. He's suddenly up and seems still to be a difficult guy to get a deal done with, like he was in Carolina. We mentioned Rasmussen. We could save McDavid for a bit, but there's a lot of high-profile players there that are a year away from free agency. Walk us through what this means and how you're feeling about them.
Yeah, and then there's a tier just below, and I think of Adrian Kempe in Los Angeles and Alex Tuck, who's important to the Buffalo Sabres, and on it goes. I think in each individual case is going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds, because Kaprizov's numbers matter. They matter to the individual strategy here, right? Maybe if you're Marty Necas and you don't have the same level of history, you aim for the fence. That's what Kaprizov did with the Minnesota Wild. Jack Eichel is different for me. Jack Eichel knows that he is an excellent fit in Vegas. He has an opportunity to win every single year. He loves Vegas. He likes playing there. So maybe just the want to continue to keep that team as competitive as it can be and continue to find ways to bring in players like Mitch Marner, speculation now around Carter Hart, all of that. Well, that's because players have been willing to leave a little bit on the table in Vegas. And Kyle Connor is a complicated one here, fellas. You know, a small market Canadian team. I think ownership in Winnipeg would pride themselves on the fact that they don't give signing bonus money out. So structure matters. But if you're Kyle Connor in this negotiation, you're like, you know, man, I've done everything I can. I understand why the team has to be super sensitive to the structure of my contract extension, but I feel like I've earned this demand. No shortage of want. Winnipeg wants to keep Kyle Connor. I think they're going to be able to keep Kyle Connor, but there's still some heavy lifting in that negotiation that has to get done.
Interesting.
We may as well go to Edmonton. The coach gets an extension. I'm guessing some people would have been very excited. Extension. It's getting announced today. Oh, it's great. Knobloch. Okay, that's pretty good. I think it's the other one that's got people the most worried. Not shocked to see Knobloch get a 3-year extension, but I don't know. I said this yesterday that it feels like he's such a unicorn.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, you enter the season without a contract extension. So this is trouble. I don't know that I feel that way. He can sign or not sign whenever he wants. And I don't know that it has the same bearing to me on this one.
I'm with you, man. I think that's a perfect read on the situation. There's no animosity here. Is there nervousness building? Sure. You know, I mean, Daryl Cates is probably getting a little antsy, the owner of the Edmonton Oilers. And then that message would be delivered to Jeff Jackson and on to Stan Bowman, the general manager. There's no shortage of willingness to close whenever Connor is ready to step up and say, okay, let's get this negotiation done. If it happens, and I'm still 50-50 that it is going to happen. And I don't know that's positive or a negative. Oilers fans may look at it as a negative. But if it gets done in season, I still feel like it's more likely going to be a shorter contract, like a 2-year term. And that probably scares the crap out of Oilers fans and maybe Oilers ownership as well. But you're right, Boomer, in saying he's a unicorn. You know, when Connor McDavid feels that it's the right time to get the extension, the business done, then that's what's going to happen. It's not like Edmonton is going to say, no, we're not ready yet. Or no, let's give it some time. We need to see more from you. Come on. I mean,
well,
that deal's not going to be there in November.
Not a negotiation. It's what you want.
Write down the number and we give it to you. But
pretty much.
What's he want to see?
Well, I think he wants to see the pieces that he believes he can win with long term. And I know that sounds like an excuse and a bit of a stretch. I mean, this team has gone back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, ran into the juggernaut that is or was the Florida Panthers. But I look around at the Oilers, and I don't want to throw it at the feet of Stu Skinner and goaltending, because that goaltending was good enough to take them to the playoffs and into the Stanley Cup Final in consecutive years. So that goaltending is okay. But do you need better than okay if you don't have the other holes in your lineup filled? And I think there are some there that don't think that that's okay. They feel like that's an area that needed to get addressed, and it hasn't. And I was sure curious. I don't know what you guys thought about this. The Oilers were quick. Chris Knobloch was quick to explain his rationale to starting the season with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid on the same line. I mean, what were we? 2 games into the preseason, maybe? Early in like, it was relatively early in the process. My gut in reading the tea leaves was that McDavid is looking over here, and then he's looking over here, and he's seeing either young, inexperienced players, guys with no experience at all, and going, I don't know if that's going to work. So maybe the message was delivered like, I mean, we've been in the game like 10 years here. Like, this isn't going to fly. Like, we need more help. And unfortunately for Bowman, he's just absolutely strapped by the salary cap by a number of other clubs. So I think that's what McDavid needs to see, is how the pieces of this puzzle fit. Worst case scenario, Captain Obvious, is if things don't go well in the first half of the regular season and the Oilers are a non-playoff team. So I'm not predicting that's going to happen.
Best case scenario.
Well, for you guys,
yeah, and you know what, I said this, it just feels like if there's no, we're right there, maybe something happens in less than a week, but if there is no extension and you get in, it's like every power play, penalty kill, bad goal, any little thing is going to be so highly scrutinized.
For sure.
And unfairly, right? It takes, you get into November, it takes some time to get things going. Even the best teams in the world hit some speed wobbles at times. But we talk about Rasmus Anderson and a distraction. It's going to be a major distraction if they don't get a terrific start in Edmonton. Yeah.
And look, I mean, the reporters have a job to do. And so their job is to ask the questions. Connor can shut it down every single week. The PR department of the Oilers, they can shut it down mid-scrum. That doesn't matter. But it's not just local media that is going to be peppering, right? I'll never forget. This was back in, I got to think, I was in Winnipeg and I moved to Edmonton in 1997. So whatever year it was, but the Detroit Red Wings are rolling through town. Steve Yzerman, the captain, is in a bit of a contract, stalemate, if you will, with the Detroit Red Wings. And every city Yzerman went into, he got peppered with the same type of question. So finally, after a morning skate in Winnipeg, I go in there, glassy-eyed, green as grass, and I ask him a question. And as only Yzerman can do, like, he burned me with lasers. Like, his eyes went right through the back of my head. And he just simply said, "Go ask Scotty." All right. So I did. But that's the type of stuff that the best of the best have to deal with. And that's coming McDavid's way if they don't have a pretty good start, or at least first 20 games go a little wobbly.
You talk about those sort of brand new pieces, and I'd say they're overslotted. Like, if you wanted to try to put Matthew Savoy on a contending team, you'd probably want him to start on a third line. Ike Howard might need some time in the American League.
Agreed.
Thomas, that kid's 29, played in Sweden last year. Like, these guys are all overslotted. Like, Trent Frederick was a great fourth liner for the Bruins. He's not a first line winger. No. And all of a sudden you're looking at these wingers, and I understand why Connor might want to see if this works, because it's not Kane, it's not Perry, as much as we thought those weren't going to work. There was you knew what you had. There was a lot of question marks. Like, Andrew Mangiapane played himself to the fourth line in Calgary and Washington. Yeah. I understand why you might want to see if it works. And Stan said, we're going to address goaltending. They haven't. Connor Ingram is not a solution.
Yeah, what have they done to improve?
Like he said at the season-ending press conference, I think the defense will stay the same. There'll be some adjustments in the forwards, and there might be, we'll probably change some things in net. They haven't. They've added an AHL goalie.
Yeah. And look, I'm sure it wasn't through a lack of effort. I mean, again, all general managers do the same thing. They're beating the bushes. They're having calls, all of this. Chris Johnson and I had this conversation recently, and he's more in tune with this than I am in terms of looking, projecting, and forecasting what certain positional things are going to look like. Look at the potential of available goaltenders next year. It is abysmal. Like, there's nothing there. Yeah. The cupboard is bare. So unless you somehow have something parked in a corner that nobody else knows about, which never happens in the National Hockey League, then how do you improve that area? But, I mean, I think you nailed it, Pinder. There are certain aspects of the Oilers lineup that I like. I like some of those young guys, but they need time. They need time to develop. I know that there was some interest in the offseason in Jack Roslovic, as an example, right? I mean, that guy hasn't signed a contract yet.
22 goals last year.
He looks like he should have been a good fit in Edmonton. And I don't think it was through a lack of effort by Stan Mullen. Maybe it was just whatever their offer was, and I think it was multi-year, wasn't enough. Jack thought that a better deal was coming, and so far that hasn't happened. But again, let's bring it back to McDavid and company. That's not the fault of Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl or the players who are in that lineup. That's not their job. Like, I would guess that Connor McDavid has probably sent more text messages to players who could be future Oilers than maybe any other player in the league. Around trade deadline or certainly in free agency. Hey, what do you think? We'd love to have you, that sort of stuff. And, comes a time where that just doesn't get it done.
50-50 is about as grim as we've heard from an Oilers perspective.
For him staying?
Yeah. Like we have our partner is Bet365 and they got him minus 160 to re-sign, plus 130 to leave.
Why would you? Like, other than, I think, he and his family do have an appreciation for Edmonton, the organization, the city. His wife has a business there. Like, there's lots of reasons why it should be higher than 50-50. But if it's higher than 50-50, why hasn't he done it already?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's been a decade or more already.
And you can like other places too. Just because you like one place doesn't mean you dislike everywhere else.
Right.
And just because I love you guys so much, and you draw this out of me, and I'm trying to talk myself out about what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I just look overall at the bigger picture here. Look around the league. Kenny Holland ends up in Los Angeles. Ken Holland had a fantastic relationship with Connor McDavid. Ken Holland, obviously back nine of his career. I frankly was a bit surprised that he took the job in Los Angeles because I didn't think he wanted to work that hard, but he kept saying, the juice is still there. The juice is still there. What do you think his top priority is?
Bring Connor.
McDavid. Yeah. Okay. Then flip over to the Dallas Stars. They get rid of an excellent coach in Pete DeBoer, hired Glenn Gulletson for a second lap through Dallas. You guys know that I'm a disciple of Glenn Gulletson. I think he's a terrific coach. I'm glad that he got the opportunity. Super tight with McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Well, does that not give you a bit of an edge in the interview process?
Yes, it does.
With the team, when you know that the best player on the planet is going into the final year of his contract. So there's my devil's advocate conspiracy theories in Dallas and in LA.
Like that. God, we love Dregs. Isn't he great? Friday's the best, so What shirts?
Hey, we were kind of talking about the other day. It's like Kenny Holland in LA. Hey, oh gosh, but they're not going to have caps. But what, Kopitar? Is he retired at the end of the year?
Goes up another 10 million.
That's like 10 million right there. I think they could probably find some couch cushions there at Staples Center, maybe a little bit here and there for a Connor McDavid.
Well, frankly, Dallas is more intriguing to me because of everything we've just talked about. Their goaltending looks to be good for a long, long time. Look at that talent pool and the fact that their good young players are coming into their own now, right? So they've got good young players pushing. They've got middle players that are still more than capable as an experienced team. And Jake Ottinger is top notch. So you never know.
Free. You got the White Johnsons, Rupe Hintzes, Thomas Hardy.
All right, we won't.
No, we got to keep going. That's great.
I know. We don't want to shovel too
midnight.
Much dirt on Dregs. Don't want to do that. Before we let you go, thoughts on Sidney Crosby? Just, there was the talk.
Good player.
Love to win. Really, yeah.
You like him, huh?
I like to win as much as the next guy, and Stanley Cups are nice. And I just want to be great to play in the playoffs. Like there's the agents talking a little bit, the player who doesn't say anything, even he's kind of talking a little bit.
Yeah.
Is again 50-50. What's the Dreger math on a potential Sid relocation this year?
Well, I mean, undoubtedly Sid has had this conversation with his family and with his agent Pat Brisson countless times over the offseason, probably more so of late than ever, because the reality is setting in here. He's running out of opportunities. He's focused on helping the Pittsburgh Penguins. We know this. He's focused on having a good year. He's focused on the Olympics and leading Canada to another gold, all of that great stuff. If Pittsburgh isn't as competitive as they're planning on being, how can it not be a top story again in that second half of the season? And look, as much as Sid loves the romantic idea of staying with the same organization his entire year, there's also something noteworthy and sweet about giving something back to that organization on your way out. Why can't it be a win-win? Mm-hmm. We talked about the Montreal Canadiens earlier, and I talked about how great that young talent pool is. Montreal would do whatever is possible to get Sidney Crosby. Whatever is possible. So would a lot of teams. But, Kyle Dubas looking at what he has to do now in terms of that renovation rebuild in Pittsburgh. So I think it's relevant to have these conversations specific to Sid now. And last year before, I think was a tad premature.
There you go.
So he's going to make that Olympic team, man. Good player.
Yeah. Well, and again, we can go, but it had to, even for him, as confident as he knows, to go to the Four Nations and be elite.
Yes.
It's like, I've still got it. I want to win. I wonder if that sparked a little bit of all of this.
How about this? Somebody mentioned to me, and I hate that somebody game. Others play it, and it pisses me off because who's somebody? Who's somebody?
Pumping
guy
gas.
cuts my hair. I mean, I should retract that. What if Crosby and McDavid linked together?
Dallas, let's go. Just don't make it Edmonton Dregs, and we're all in.
Up there. God Almighty, please. Dregs, you're a good boy. Won't have you next week unless you go earlier in the week.
But come Thursday. Come Thursday.
Jays or Yankees?
Sorry, bud. Yankees.
Oh. I had Yankees gear on the other day. It's
doing
fun.
so well. Okay. He was doing so well.
That's perfect.
It's a divided show here. Rhett, whichever way the wind blows, he cheers for. Boomer's a staunch Yankees guy, and obviously Pinder's grinder party.
Are you coming to the Greta, the watch party on Saturday?
No. In fact, I'll be in studio for our final Leafs Detroit Red Wings regional game.
There you
Looking
go.
forward to it.
Love it.
Proceed.
Great having you back, buddy. You're the best. We'll talk to you down the road.
You guys have a good one.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.